the comfort, the so-called comfort of our bedroom, the so-called comfort of our living room, and the so-called deception of tube, screen, the so-called comfort, the so-called distraction, the deception of handset, of all these gadgets, and to come in person to be in his presence. Let's give the Lord a hand of praise. I appreciate your coming, and we thank God that you're here this morning. And for those joining us online, we appreciate you. But I just want to throw out an invitation in case you belong to Wabash Valley environs and you can drive within 1 hour to church. You have no excuse not to be in church. I want you to believe that COVID, Delta variant, and all these things cannot lock you down anymore. God is in control. You see, we have stayed long enough in this mountain. Let's turn northward. We have been deceived and we have believed the lies of social distancing for so long. Please, let's come for spiritual integration. So if you're at home, thank you for joining us online. And if you're watching at any time, I want you to know that there is much more in being in God's presence, in being together. You know, it says that we should not forsake the assembly of one another. It says how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity and in love. And I want you to understand that let us not believe the system of the world. We have been hearing on Wednesdays. My wife has been preaching, and last Wednesday we thank God for what God did on renewing your mind. You see, when it tells us nowadays, I've always been telling people this, whatever we do has a spiritual connotation. And when now we greet ourselves, giving each and every one of us knuckles, I tell you the beginning of knuckles. You see, when the Bible says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, I want you to understand something. The word wrestle there is not just the wrestling match. It has three, because it is written in Greek. Whenever any Greek citizen, the Greeks, whenever they read that, it's not the kind of wrestling we are used to here in this Western world that they think about. The first one is boxing, which is, you know that it is close contact battle. And the boxing of the time in which the Bible was reading is not the kind of boxing that we watch on TV today, we paid for to go and watch. It's not the kind of the one that all these Pasco, Tyson, is not the one. Those ones are already regulated. The boxing of then is highly brutal. They fight with anything. And you know, when they fight, they try to, in their boxing, I know we're not going there today, but they try to remove gouged out eyes, tear the nose, and pitch off the ear. It's bloody. And you know what? The boxers, they have belt, a strap that they wrap around their wrist. And when they wrap it around, you see the gloves we are seeing today, that's not the kind of glove they were using in those days. It starts from their arm up to the finger, the arm. And in the knuckle, where they punch like this, they have spikes. There are spikes there. And those spikes it could be sharp iron, long. So when they fight, when they give knuckle, you can imagine what kind of knuckles they are given. And when the world is now bringing us back to greeting each other with knuckles, Don't you know that they are taking us back spiritually to fighting? I say that for you to understand. When you give each other shoulder, in those days, what do you do that for? Is it not the beginning of struggle? You shoulder each other, you elbow your friends. But right now they are telling us, you don't elbow friends in those days. You elbow someone that you want to fight. You want acrimony, you have acrimony against. But right now, when they tell you that don't shake hands, it is elbow. I'm going to be sharing most of these things with you in future to let you know where the world is taking us back to spiritually. These are ungodly ways. I say it anywhere. It's not the right way. The Bible says, greet one another. Is that how to greet? And we have believed the lies. And now they tell you that you can't sit with your friends. You see, I'm not saying all these things does not exist. Coronavirus has been in existence for so long. It's not just 2019 that it came into existence. But they are using it to instill fear in us all and to separate us and to bring in spiritual issues. And that's why you find out today what is happening. We hate one another. Nations against nations. Black don't want white. Check. We thank God for this church. I thank God for this church. The most segregation place every Sunday morning is churches. I thank God for you all in this church. And I'm grateful to God for everyone present here. That we are not segregated. We're not discriminatory. But go to churches. No, I can't attend that church. That's a black church. I can't attend that church. That's a white church. When Christ died for us all. You see, what they want is to separate us. To instill fear in us. Why am I sharing this? Peradventure you are at home. You have no excuse not to be in church. And I want to tell you that don't let anything take away what is the Lord for the Lord. It's on Sundays now that we rest. What kind of rest? I've always been asking people that don't go to church. You see, when people don't go to church and say, oh, I have clothes to wash. I have this to do. I have laundry. I have that. Ask them between 10 and 12, what were they doing? You'll find out that nothing. It's on Sundays now that we plan business. On Sundays. And ask them, what do you achieve between the hours of 9, 10, 11, 12? Nothing. So I beseech you by the mercies of God, please, don't let anything take away God's time from your hand. But I appreciate you all for being here this morning. And I thank God for all the nations represented in this church. Let's give the Lord a hand of praise for that. Thank you for being here. We do not take your coming out for granted, and we appreciate you for being here. I want to make some announcements before we go online. Do you have Covenant House in the other pulley? Do you have them? Our mother church in Indianapolis, can you show it if you have it?